Hey there, artistic friends. Welcome to stellarjstudios, formerly known as the Rebookery channel. I am Gina, and I'm going to share a journal with you today that I created a year ago. This journal happened to come along in a period of time where I was experiencing a lot of hopelessness, lack of purpose, a lot of anger and fear, and just overall frustration. I created this because winter is my favorite time of year. I love the gray skies, the dark. I love the cold and the crisp air. And I love just the season of rest and calm and peace. So when I created this, I didn't realize a lot of the things I put into this journal until I actually opened it up today and revisited it. And now I can see all of those things I incorporated were subliminally or intuitively put in this journal to create that calm peace, that serenity that I was craving at this period in my life. So I'm going to flip through and show you guys some of the things that are now speaking to me when I look back on it. The first thing is I created this journal out of a quilt block, and it's tattered and torn, but totally soft, and fabric scraps, one signature, some fun little vintage pieces. And this to me is the cozy comfort. This is like a blanket, literally and figuratively. This is like a blanket. And that's what I wanted to create when I was working in this journal. Now, this journal is filled with scrapbook paper, which I don't tend to normally use, but I have so much of it. And even though I love winter, the holidays kind of freak me out. They definitely do. There's always the normal layer of anxiety, which I am not dismissing because that anxiety around the holidays is real. But there's also another layer of anxiety for me, and it's the anxiety of all of the excess that goes on. The paper, the wrapping, the packaging, the gift giving, just all of that creates this chaos in my head. If you followed me for a while, you know that I always say the world has enough stuff. We don't need to create anything else. So I wanted to find something that needed a new purpose. And I dug through my scrapbook paper, pulled out some paper that had some pretty patterns, some colors that I thought would give me joy when I opened it up. And I made this out of those papers. And I really loved that because the way I worked in this journal was I came home from school, which was my main stressor, still is, but was my main stressor at the time. And I would sit on the couch, grab my bag of supplies. I had a small bag that had, bits of paper and fabric. Tried to keep it very, very limited so that I didn't get stressed out. Some old stickers like the Christmas seals. And having the pop of color from the scrapbook papers really made it easy because I felt like the story was already started. So as I looked through this journal, I noticed that I had a lot of themes going. And I can't remember if they were intentional or not intentional, but looking back, I can really pull out those themes and kind of see what their significance was. So one of the things I did on every page was I put an old, this one says 1941, I put an old Christmas seal. I have a stash of those, and I always like to use them at Christmas time or around the holidays just because they bring back a warmth for me when I was growing up. I also included things that had to do with home. And so you'll see there's lots of home references in here. So I've drawn houses on almost every page or used stickers. This picture right here came from a children's book, and it just reminded me of my own children. Christmas cactus, which my mother and my great-grandmother loved Christmas cactuses, and I have many pieces of Christmas cactuses from them and their Christmas cactus, so I tucked that in. But just this overall sense of comfort. And each night I would open up a page. Didn't matter if it was in order or not, and I would just start. A lot of times I would start with what was already on the page. Was there a Christmas sticker or Christmas seal already on there? Was there a background paper or background color? Did I find some paper in my stash, my bag that I had full of gathered materials that kind of spoke to me? And a lot of it was color. I loved playing around with different colors that can represent the holidays or represent winter to different people. And as I worked through here, I'd started to gain a lot of confidence. So I think this first one right here was a November 6th. But then, not going in order, I can see my dates. So this was December 21st. So in this spread right here, it's significant because I started to write down plans and dreams that I had that I had buried under all of this anger and frustration with my current job. And I started to let those come out. Now it's interesting because on this page, I actually was writing down all the reasons why I shouldn't pursue this dream. The dream was making children's books. And so I wrote down all the things that would keep me from it. Now, I needed to get that out, but it's interesting that I still wasn't at that point where I could say, okay, you can do this. You can find hope. I was still in that hopelessness, but I was starting to come out. I was also practicing my art skills, and I was really proud of how I did this. It was just a marker and a white pen and a gold pen. And I was starting to feel more comfortable with drawing. And then my houses, I was like trying to push and see, okay, how else can I make houses? Does it always have to be the same shape? Does it always have to be the same, like proportions? And do I always have to have all the same parts of a house? Can houses be different? Then my supplies and colors really started to explode. So now I'm using wrapping paper and stamps and cut up stickers. I'm starting to play around with different colors, and I love this color scheme. I mean, you wouldn't typically think that this is a holiday or a winter color scheme. I mean, this wrapping paper right here, I'm sure has to do with a bridal shower or a baby shower, but it just works. And using things like a highlighter, just a regular old highlighter, kind of added a pop of color. And then the darkness. A lot of my pages are dark because I love the dark sky. And I can tell that this was my story starter for this page because I loved this stamp with its dark sky. And I'm sure I tried to recreate that on here. And I feel like I did a pretty good job. And these are just torn pieces of paper that I turned into houses. I found this in a Holly Hobby book because Holly Hobby is my jam. But it says, remember when you couldn't wait till it was Christmas? And I remember that feeling. Oh my gosh, like that feeling stays with me a lot. I remember sitting next to the tree and thinking that December was the longest month in the world. And now it's like it flies by so fast. But when you're a kid, I think everything goes slow when you're a kid. using things that I just have sitting around. So like this came from a cup of tea I had. This was the little label on the string. Playing around with different types of houses and using some of my most favorite wrapping paper. Putting pieces of fabric in, more cut up stickers. So as I was saying, I was very stressed at this time and very woeful. I needed to get a lot of stuff out. And so this was interesting. I found this and I don't even remember making it, but I think I just took a couple of little cards like this and taped it together. And I just started to write. And I don't even know what it says. I could go back and get my glasses on and try to read it, but I noticed I see the word anger and control and displaced and a cycle. And I needed to get this all out. And I did. And I kept going and going. And you can see I had a lot to say and a lot to write, but wow, this was therapeutic. And I don't need to go back and read it again. I don't want to go back and read it again, but I got it out and it's hidden. All of my fears and negativity was hidden because this is cute. This is beautiful. And interesting because on the back, I guess I had worked myself through it because on the back I see every day I get to choose positive, peace, and happiness. So I started off in a bad place, but I ended up being able to see some hope. And that was kind of cool. Using contrasting colors, using bold and bright. This was a piece that was significant because I remember doing this piece. And again, this is me sitting on my couch, coming home from work, taking these limited supplies and just decompressing. And I would get in the zone for an hour or two while my husband's, watching TV and I'm just sitting there and I would just lose time. It was amazing. It was so therapeutic, even though I didn't realize it at the time. But what I discovered was that my artistic skills really started to improve. I was so proud of this piece. I remember making this piece and just being like, wow, I did that. Because I was in a deep, dark place of self-doubt. I was doubting what I had been doing for 28 years, even though I knew I was doing a good job at my job. And if you don't know me, I'm a teacher. I'm a public school teacher, but the last few years have been really hard. And last year was probably the hardest. And I had hit bottom. So being able to gain confidence in something, even though it wasn't teaching, it wasn't school, it was my art, that gave me hope. And I can tell, even though I don't work in order, I can tell that this piece kind of started a whole new, I don't know, exploration in this journal. Because now I was really starting to hone in on my artistic skills and my drawing because I felt that self-confidence. And I was like, okay, let's see what else I can do. And so in my work life, I kind of just stopped. I quit trying to be perfect at work and please everybody, because you can't. And I focused more of my energy on my art. And I can look at this and know I hit a turning point, because after I finished up this journal, my artwork completely changed. My journals completely changed. I started working in a sketchbook. And it was because of the confidence that I built as I was going through this. And again, I didn't know. It's like the saying, you can't see the forest through the trees. I couldn't see my growth. I couldn't see my progress. I couldn't see my worth because I was in the middle of all of this and I couldn't sort out the good from the bad. But looking back a year later, I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. I love this page right here because, first of all, a lot of this is made when I was watching probably Sir David Attenborough, any of his programs like Planet Earth and Blue Planet and all that good stuff. But this verbiage right here, it says, guard your peace fiercely. And that's exactly what I was doing in this journal. I was guarding my peace, my sanctity, my home, my happiness, my safety. I was guarding it because at this point in time, a year ago, I felt like there was nothing I could control, but I could control this. And man, this was such a great escape. This piece right here, I love this. I was being completely silly one night. This was December 11th. And I had this old kitty cat wrapping paper, and I just put it down and just started laughing because I laugh when I see cats. I mean, oh my gosh. But I just created this story that these cats were having a pussycat Christmas party. And no doggies are allowed, and mandatory gift exchange, formal attire is required, bring your own nip, so BYON. And I just thought this was the funniest thing in the world. And yeah, I don't know that everybody else was as amused as I was, but I look at it now and I still laugh. So I'm getting more confident with putting down my hopes, my thoughts, my dreams. And if you notice, they're bright. Like, look, I even stamped the word happy. I was not happy at this point in my life last year. And this shows that I'm like turning a page here, and I'm starting to put down things. And instead of saying, like I did back here, why I shouldn't write children's books, here I'm saying, oh, here are all the things that are in my head that I want to do. And I don't put the doubts down at that time. That's awesome. I'm starting to explore a lot more in my drawing and relating it to science, because I do love science. I just didn't really love teaching science last year. And then just putting dreams down. This is a ranch that in my head I've created this, and we call it Groverville Ranch because my dog, who, by the way, this was our first holiday season without my dog, and so that was another thing that was really weighing on my mind. But Groverville Ranch, and it would be a compound where my whole family would live there, and that's just like, it just makes me smile thinking of it. And pulling in my Raggedy Ann and my Holly Hobby. I had a lot of stuff in my head going on with animals because I was missing my dog. I was missing my kitty cat. And so you'll see that there's animals all throughout this. But I was also practicing on how to draw those. I've always told myself I can't draw. But you know what? I did. And I think it looks pretty darn good. And then again, going back to that whole science thing, because I'm a science geek, and I was learning and teaching a lot about plants in the classroom at this time last year, and a lot about photosynthesis. I think I had a lot of chemical formulas and stuff written in here. Maybe I haven't got, oh yeah, I had a lot of chemical formulas written in here, and I was learning about the wood wide web, where it's this fungi, this network of fungi, and how they contribute to trees growing and a mother tree, and how they connect to all the other trees. And I just found it fascinating, and I was like, I want to document that. And then just playing with color and scrap paper and just writing down positive notes to help me rewire my brain. This one was cool because I was watching a science channel or a science show about glaciers, and that blue just struck me. And so I grabbed all of my markers and colored pencils that I had laying around me that fell into that color palette. And I just like it just made me so happy. It made me feel safe. And more just playing around, more dreams, and remembering some of my favorite books, because in my head I'm still thinking about making a children's book. I love this one because I had a Boys Town Christmas seal, and then I found these 2 pages in a Holly Hobby Christmas book, and they reminded me of my boys. And then this was the last page, and I did not realize how significant this is until I actually went through this journal today. So the last page kind of looks a little muddy and messy, but it's 2 birds, and it says, "Can you see?" And down below is that whole network of the fungi and how they're communicating to help build up the forest. And I wrote, "So much below that we don't know." And I feel like that's so symbolic because that's kind of what this journal was telling me. It's like I started out and everything was on the surface. Everything was above and the chaos and things I couldn't control. And by the time I got to the end, I had found peace. I had found peace in going below, going deeper and saying, you know what? There's a whole bunch of stuff that I can control, and I'm going to focus on those things, finding them, and then figuring out how to accomplish what I can in that underneath. And I know I'm getting like really deep here, but this journal it just really was an important part of my journey last year, and I wanted to share it with you. I hope you are healthy. I hope you are happy. I hope you do something creative today. And let me know in the comments, what's a journal that you've worked in or a piece that you've worked on before that significantly changed your outlook, and what did you gain from that, from working in that? All right, my friends, have a great rest of the day. Until next time, bye.